When I watched the Kansas-West Virginia game yesterday, I thought that I saw an up-and-down West Virginia team that mounted a very impressive comeback to win the game. And then I went on to various sites, and dang, I must be wrong, because it sure sounds like they lost. People out there are, well, not everybody, but there's a whole lot of griping going on. And the people who were trying to enjoy a win kept getting their parade rained on. Well, West Virginia won the football game. They made a lot of mistakes. They've still got issues. But it was one hell of a comeback, and it was a win. We're going to talk about that and a number of things in this upcoming video. And you are watching WVU Football Going Deep. I am Forrest Poston. I am imperfect. I am not entirely unlikable, usually. But while you're here, I would appreciate if you would subscribe, if you would share, comment, click the thumbs up button, click the notification bell, and tell your friends. And I think, last I looked, we was 71 subscribers away from the magic 500 mark. And I do appreciate your help. Now, first of all, update on Aubrey Burks. What we have so far is positive. We just don't have a lot. He returned to the stadium. He came in late, in the game. The tests didn't show anything. So, as things stand, he seems to be doing okay, but they don't seem to know yet what happened. Of course, that will mean we don't know if he'll miss anything or how long. But it just seems that he got injured during the game, came off the field, and then later felt something wrong. We don't quite know, we don't know what he felt wrong or any of that. But he's up and about. So, good news, just confusing, which describes a whole heck of a lot of this season. I will be doing here in the next day or two a video about my perspective on the season up to date, kind of what has and hasn't happened, how it's gone, what seems to be going on, maybe a little bit of why. And of course, why is my guess. I do not know a lot of things. I observe, analyze, and guess. And if you have been watching, you've noticed that there have been times I may have been wrong. If you're watching, there have been times that I have been wrong. Or am I wrong about that? All right. Next thing I want to cover. A lot of people are saying, hey, if we do so well in the 2-minute drill, why don't we do the 2-minute drill all the time? Sometimes wonder if these people know anything about football. And actually, well, a lot of them watch the game. They're not interested in learning the back stuff. So, of course, if they learned the back stuff, I wouldn't have much to talk about, because you'd already have figured it out. The 2-minute drill is not the same as playing up tempo. Some people are saying that, hey, it's just up tempo. No. 2-minute drill, for one thing, you cut the playbook down to almost nothing. Handful of plays. You minimize or eliminate substitutions, and you don't do much in the way of shifts or motion. Anything that takes time gets eliminated. Now, part of the reason that it works is because defenses under these circumstances are often playing a little looser than they might have been playing before. They're keeping guys in front of them. They're not so much trying to keep the pass from being completed as they are trying to keep it from being a long pass. Nobody gets behind them. That's the goal. Now, that means they're 10 to 20 yards downfield, there's room. You can maneuver a little. And the defense doesn't mind that. They'll give you a 10-yard, completion, because unless you string a whole lot of those together in a very short time and get out of bounds, clock runs out. But if the offense does things just right, and they did, you catch a little seam, and you get a lot of yards after the catch, which Clement did often. That was the key. It was yards after catch that made the difference. And part of that is Green being on target, putting the ball where the receiver can catch and keep going. And that makes it harder for the defense to catch up. And like I say, makes a big difference. But if you played that 2-minute drill the entire time, the defense would not keep playing the same way. If it's not late in the half or game, the defense isn't going to be allowing you those 10-yard receptions. They're going to be sitting on a lot of things. So a 2-minute drill works for very specific reasons. It also has very specific limitations. So you use it at the right time. And again, part of the reason it's successful is that defenses take fewer risks. Now, on the other hand, Clement and Ray were beating those corners a lot. They were getting open, even before the 2-minute drill. Why it didn't always result in touchdowns, that's next thing. Offensive line. Milam and Remack graded out very well. Not surprising. Malone graded out, kind of borderline. He was up, he was good. He just wasn't quite up to what was considered very good, above 65. But PFF grades. Yates, I think, had his worst game, and Hubbard has not taken the step he needed to take. He's grading out in the low 50s, which is kind of mediocre. And if you're playing against a good defense, mediocre is not good enough. Yates has had some issues with false starts. At least one of the times he leaned back before he snapped the ball. But we are having problems up the middle. Ran well up the middle against Pitt, but then when it counted, didn't. But we're getting blitzes up the middle, and we're getting a lot of pressure up the middle. How much of that is Yates? How much is Hubbard? I don't specifically know. And at least one of the blitzes in an earlier game, it was, I think, Yates, looking left when the guy came up the middle and he didn't see him coming. Options at right guard are fairly limited. We have guys who are going to be good, but are they ready? We may, I don't know if we'll see a change or if they'll just ride with Hubbard. Again, even if Hubbard isn't great, he may be the best option for now. We might have a guy who even in a few games is more ready. But I think, we probably do need to get some guys in there if we get a chance just to get them more snaps. They have, with few exceptions, they've been going, especially the last two games, it's been the starting five the entire time unless somebody was injured. Milam was out for 3 plays. I really thought Hubbard would step up. I mean, even if he just took a half step up this season, we'd be in good shape. Hasn't quite happened. Malone, that's good news there. Receivers, they did good. Now, Gallagher actually did not grade out well. I'm assuming that's more on a blocking matter. I did not double check. But of course, he's playing a bigger and bigger role. He played 50 snaps on offense this time, which is also why he did not play on defense. They had that figured going in. Robinson was injured and out for this game, and Fox was injured and out. So, they had some changes in mind. And I think that's probably also part of why these guys ended up having a good game. They knew, hey, they had to step up to cover for their teammates, and they did. Another, Clement mentioned, really he's been pushing too hard, trying to do too much, and had to, basically they told him to play the game. It is a game. Yeah, they're getting paid these days, but it is a game. And Green has said some similar things. Other players have said it in the past. Donaldson, for one. You get in that mindset where, you're approaching it wrong mentally. And somebody has to, tell you, hey, stop that. Get back to what you do well. Play the game because you love to play the game. And I think that's a big issue right now. I think that's one of the things that's hurting the team overall. They got to get the team mentality back to that. I'll talk about that more in the summary video in a couple of days. Green. Good news, Green really did a lot better with the long pass. Including, the announcers pointed out several times he was going over the middle a lot more. There have been various opinions as to why he hadn't done that in the past. Some say, well, he's short. He's not really short. He's just not as tall as some want quarterbacks to be. But that doesn't really affect how you see 15, 20 yards down the field that much if the line's doing their job. Now, Green only completed 15 of 30 passes, 50%. But 3 of those were knocked down at the, behind the line of scrimmage. And that was, the line was letting guys get too close. And it wasn't enough to call it pressure, but if they get really close, Green does not have the angle to throw over them or even around them. And I think, all 3 of those knockdowns were more on the line than on Green. 2 were when he got hit, as he threw, one which ended up as an interception, one an incompletion. And again, a lot of that was guys coming too clean, getting there too quickly. It's kind of partly on Green when, he has to trust his line, but at the same time, he has to be aware when things break down. How much was the defense getting there too quickly? How much was Green being a little too slow, or maybe should have realized that he didn't have time to make the throw? Now, it's not a position he's been in a lot. So these should be ways that he learns that timing, how to make the decision. On the interception, Ray was he was so far behind the defense, he had no chance to get back to the ball. If he had actually been well covered, he would have been able to get back to fight for that, or at least prevent the interception. But he was 2 or 3 yards back. Good clean pass, and it's a touchdown. But if we say, okay, 5 passes that, it wasn't because Green was off target, other factors. If he completes 3 of those 5, he's at 60%. Big difference. So the percentage issue was not entirely on Green. Now, he got back to running more when he had the opportunity. If the pocket is tight around you, you've got nowhere to run. But he made partly, I think, a decision, and he said that basically Brown has pretty much always told him, if there's nothing there, just run, and he did that more. I think he is still learning how to be a more complete quarterback, a more complete dual threat quarterback. And that balance is tough. He'll learn. He's learning. But yeah, that's the offense. It's all there. They don't have to play 2-minute drill all the time to be able to play at that quality level all the time. They have to eliminate some mistakes. Easy to say, especially from a distance. Defense. Okay, Brown has made it clear, especially in the post game, they went in with the intent of keeping everything in front of them, letting nobody get behind them. And they knew that would allow more room to run. I don't think, they didn't want it to be over 200 yards, but they knew that Kansas would be able to run. And overall, it kind of worked. There were a couple of breakdowns, but if you're just saying, hey, Kansas has to be able to make a whole lot of plays in a row without mistakes, then you've got a shot. They did make some good drives. And then West Virginia stopped them, and they stopped them more often than not, which ultimately was what counted. Now, they did use more pressure early than they did through the middle of the game. I'm not entirely sure why they started to let up on the pressure. Probably some guys were getting open downfield. They just weren't getting the ball. The defensive line itself was playing safer. They weren't stunting as much. I think some of it was just, the whole safe idea. Stunts take more time, and I think the way the Kansas game is designed doesn't make stunts such a good idea. You can end up opening up a hole instead of closing one. I predicted a big game for the linebackers. They were very active, but not always successful. Maybe not picking the right fit, the right gap, having to do too much since they're also, they're protecting a lot more territory and still trying to come up to take care of the run. Tackling overall, the whole team, tackling was mixed. There were way too many times when a short run became a longer run because of a 1, 2, or 3 missed tackles, or just a poor tackle where the player keeps going. You bring them down eventually, but they get 2 or 3 yards more when they shouldn't have, and not just because the runner was that good, but the tackle was not good enough. Positive side, I mean, Bradley. There were expectations that he would take the next step up. He was feeling more comfortable with the position, not having to think as much. Showed that. He made the right play to be in position for that interception, a number of tackles, and of course, blitzing on the last play, forcing his way through a hold that wasn't called, to be able to get a hand out and knock the ball away and recover it. Yeah. I mean, you can't ask a player to do more on a single play. There's also, Wilson. Anthony Wilson played a good overall game, and he was one of the higher-ranked defensive players. Made a critical knockaway on the last or next to last Kansas drive. Something else that has been brought up, Jordan Leslie was up in the press box. It's the first time he's ever done it. Nobody knows yet just why. I imagine they will ask eventually, but it seems to just be, let's try something different. Perspective is different up there. And yes, we have the tablets on the field, but seeing it from up in the press box is still different from seeing it on the tablet. The environment is different. Some coaches prefer the press box. Some prefer the line, being down on the sidelines. Chad Scott definitely wants to be on the sideline. He is very much an interactive coach. I think Leslie, obviously he has preferred to be on the sideline because that's where he's been. But it may turn out that he works better in the press box, or it may be that the next game he's back down on the sideline. But I would guess that it is an experiment to see how it affects his vision of the game. And, I think Coach Brown said Trey Bell moved from press box to the field. I'm not sure. But that will affect how he works in the game. So they are making various changes. Which ones will help, which ones won't, which ones will need time, we'll have to wait and see. Notes on special teams. Had Gallagher back for returning punts, and he did well. This was because Fox was injured. They did not want to risk him even for the punt returns, except the last two. They put him back there just because he does not drop punts. He does not drop punts. Now, of course, you still see him back there, and you want to go, oh God, let's hope this is not the one time that he drops a punt. He didn't. They trust Gallagher, but Fox just has a lot more experience. And punts these days are tricky things because punters have so many different spins and techniques. Gallagher had, I think, a 16-yard return on the first punt. Where that will lead, I don't think he'll, of course, depending on Fox's health, Gallagher may return more of them. He may be moving towards being the number one punt returner by the end of the year or by next year. He's coming on in every facet of the game, which is, of course, very good to see. It's not surprising. Some people were really down on him after last year, but it's a very good progression. And, he's going to continue to be a bigger and bigger part of the game. Traylon Ray on kickoffs, I have my doubts. He doesn't seem to have just that let her rip attitude that a kick returner often needs. He doesn't get into gear quickly, and he just doesn't seem to be moving fast. A little too much looking for a place to run instead of running to create a place. Now, part of that, I mean, the blocking is not necessarily as good as it needs to be. But I don't know if, we tried a lot of different people back there in camp, and he was evidently the best. So we'll see how that goes. Jalen Anderson was back there some last year, hasn't been this year. He's been in on some special teams, and that's about it. Kickoffs were good. The times that Kansas tried to return the ball, it was not good for them. I think they got one to the 20 before Simmons just ripped the returner in half. And the first kickoff return for Kansas got back to the 18, I believe. So kickoff coverage has been excellent this year. A couple of exceptions. Had one got out to about the 31. But if that's your worst kickoff return, you're doing good. Okay. I think that covers most everything. Again, please share, subscribe, click thumbs up, make comments, all those good things. Tune in for the summary show whenever I get around to doing that. I will try to come up with some other things to do while we are here in the bye week. See what I can dig into. And, we'll see what Coach Brown says on Monday. May give me some ideas. And I do think we'll see what comes against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. People talk about it being a tough place, but I also remember 2022, and we made it tough for Oklahoma State. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. So long.